Hi. Chapter 14. Big decisions. Unable to start the car, I wept. I texted friends to see where I could sleep for the night. I had to work the next morning, so I thought about sleeping on my massage table at the office. I had keys to the chiropractic office where I worked. I had the opportunity to drive to my ex-skater's house. He was living near my town between his National Guard deployments, and I knew if I went to his house, I would regret my actions. I could not say I loved my boyfriend if I was willing to run into the bed of another man. I would not be Ross. I called my oldest sister in desperation. The pain of not having my boyfriend in my future hurt so deeply. I had hoped to never feel that pain again. I was welcome at my sister's house, but that's not a place I knew I would be happy. She lived in a different state with a child in a crowded townhome. I was with him. It was with him that I was happy. I refused to believe my boyfriend didn't love me anymore. I refused to accept we were done with a relationship. With timid determination, I walked back into his apartment. I had overwhelmed him with my verbal diarrhea. He wasn't ready. I needed to stop pushing. We were happy, so I needed to trust him. If I loved him, I would trust him. When he was ready to marry me, he would. I just needed to wait longer. In a dramatic statement, I cut my long blonde hair almost as short as it was in high school. My hair was long because I wanted it long for my wedding. By cutting my hair, I was giving him time in our relationship to reach the place in his life where he was ready. Just because he wasn't ready didn't mean he loved me less. Life was good again. I knew my future was with my boyfriend, so I could enjoy life. It had been years of watching my boyfriend and other friends playing video games. I loved to watch and read the names of the other players. Some names were creative and made me giggle. Other names made no sense, so I would make up my own story of how the name was created. Anytime I tried to play the same games as my boyfriend, my fingers refused to coordinate all the buttons so I could see and move at the same time. Video games were stressful to me, so I never created my own screen name. Driving fast in motorcycles were what my boyfriend and our apartment buddy loved to do. In the winter, when motorcycles were put away, our apartment buddy found a high-speed go-kart racing track. In order to be on the scoreboard, every driver needed a name. This was my chance to create a screen name. I knew that I was going to be the worst driver of the race. I didn't expect myself to win or to do anything but get in the way of the aggressive drivers. I didn't want drivers to expect much of my driving. That's how I got my screen name. Don't expect much with no vowels. Not expecting much is how I also view life. If I don't get my hopes up, there will be less disappointment. If I expect very little, when I get anything, I will be more thankful for it. After 3 years in the same apartment, I was desperate to decorate. A few things were hung on our walls, but all the walls were a shade of white. Behind our couch, we hung my 6,000-piece jigsaw puzzle. For a Valentine's Day gift, my boyfriend paid for my puzzle to be matted and framed. The frame cost more than the actual puzzle, and my puzzle became our decorations. No. Rising rent costs, annoying loud upstairs neighbors, and our third floor apartment buddy moved away, so staying at the apartment another year was uncertain. Big decisions needed to be made about our future. After months and hundreds of houses, I found a house that I saw my future in. As soon as I pulled up and saw the house, I knew it was where I wanted to be. The house was located a stone's throw away from the downtown I learned to drive a car. I was back to where I had gone to high school. I had found my forever home. Buying a house was the most stressful event of our lives. I was so desperate for a home, my emotions were tied to the ups and downs of purchasing a house for the first time. Not knowing what to look for or what we'll need in the future, we walked into what felt like hundreds of houses. During negotiations and inspections, the only words I need to hear was continued or failed. We either continued in the process to get the house or we failed and had to start looking again. During a tense phone call, I had to acknowledge I felt that he was yelling at me because I was trying to help him. My boyfriend was so frustrated with the buying home process that he was acting out on me. We learned how to calm each other down without getting angry at the other person. We were on the same team. We had a bid on multiple houses, and I'm glad those bids were rejected because eventually we found our forever home. My kindergarten best friend was with me the day we got the keys and walked into my new home. Like children, we ran around the empty house and rolled around the floors. She knew what this day meant to me. It had been years, but I finally had a place to unpack every box. Boxes I had not seen for years were now being unpacked in our new house. It was like Christmas. Most of what was in the boxes I had forgotten about. Decorations from my middle sister's room and toys from my childhood filled the boxes. All of my things were in one place, and there was no plan on leaving anytime soon. We moved into our home after 5 years of dating in the fall of 2013. Unpacking and decorating the house was therapy. My boyfriend let me decorate everything. As a housewarming gift to himself, a new speaker system and TV was purchased for the new, larger living room. I was not the only one that was waiting for a place to make his own. Apartments are not a place loudspeakers are appreciated. At our home, his music could be as loud as he wanted. We picked out furniture together and we built a home together. We had a housewarming party in the spring to celebrate. The start of the party needed to be pushed back at the last minute. When I had contacted my high school best friend about coming to the party, I was informed he was in town that weekend. His mother had died suddenly. So the family that lived in the area, they were having a memorial service that weekend. And I told all my friends to come a little bit later so that I could drive to him. I wanted to be there for him, even though he had disappointed me so many times. Despite my begging, my best friend from high school wouldn't see my house for another 10 years. Buying a house before marriage is considered wrong order in my family. Hearing that I was going to be purchasing a house with my boyfriend raised eyebrows from many people. I was not the only one continuing to wait for him to be ready for marriage. A marriage is a symbol of stability to me, so I continued waiting for him to ask me to be his wife officially. As more and more of my friends and people around us got engaged and married, each wedding we attended became a source of pain. After getting frustrated at how work was treating me more like a marketing person than a massage therapist, I started to job search. I was able to find a job closer to home, and it was easy to find massage therapy jobs, but it was hard to find a job I felt valued and respected. I had the safety net of my boyfriend, so I could be picky about the job I wanted to accept. My kindergarten friend was at the party that's a big jump. My kindergarten friend was at the party and part hostess. My best friend from college was there. He had graduated college and moved back home with his parents. All day, friends came in to say hi and see the house. I was finally somewhere I could start to grow roots. For the first time, I registered to vote. I was finally, or other elections had passed, but I could never provide proof of address paperwork. Not having a permanent address made registering for anything difficult. For my massage therapy exam to get my state license, I had to use my mother's address for my registration. My license was still from my adopted father's address's neighborhood. I never knew where I was going to be in the next 6 months, so the next best thing was my mother's address. It was a strange feeling driving home from work and realizing for the next 10 to 15 years I would be on the same road. For the first time, I had a consistent address. For the first time in my life, I knew what my address was going to be in the future. Working part-time gave me time to spend outside on nice days. And for years, I spent summers in a mall or at school. I did things like mini golf with my sisters, but being outside was when I was on my way to a destination. Once I had time to enjoy being alive, I started to play in the garden. The first year in a new house meant I got to see what flowers were growing in the large flower bed that was outlined by little red bricks. I had never had my own garden before and had time to see it grow. On the north side of our house, horseshoe pits had been built by the previous owner many years prior. Our house had been known as the neighborhood party house because of the deck surrounding 3/4 of the house's exterior. Our first purchase for outside was a large round table and 2 chairs. We were excited to sit together on our porch. Choosing the table for outside meant addressing questions as do we need a table for a family of 3 or a family of 4? I had always insisted that I would never have children, but it was a future he wanted. Now that my life was stable, I could see what a great father he would be, and I loved him enough that I would give him children. We had love and time to spare. We knew the possible future we could have, but he still had not asked me to be his wife. I was getting impatient and wanting to plan our wedding. A piece of comfort to me, a piece of comfort was that my boyfriend was taking better care of me than my mother's husband was taking care of her. It takes an immense amount to upset my boyfriend, but the little bald man did it. My boyfriend was playing a very difficult video game. The bald man was trying to show off his computer skills to my boyfriend. Using a computer, the little bald man accessed the power to the receiver. During a difficult battle with a boss, the bald man turned the power off, resulting in the death of my boyfriend's character. For the first time, my boyfriend thought it was a glitch or an accident. Not only did the little bald man turn the power off once, he did it twice. And when my boyfriend figured out it was the little bald man that turned the power off, he was angry. Without speaking, my boyfriend left the house to go on a motorcycle ride alone. Before he left, he texted me what happened because I was out shopping with my mom. The little bald man became a child that all adults had to monitor. Most times he secluded himself in a room with a laptop. No one enjoyed his company anyway. He had become a burden on my mom and a burden on the family. When my sister brings a man home to the family, it's a big deal. Dating was not a thing my middle sister did lightly. When my mom informed me that my sister's boyfriend was asking my father's permission to propose, I cried. Another couple that had been dating drastically less amount of time was planning a wedding. I was happy for my sister. I was happy my sister was happy, but I still longed for the security of marriage. I needed insurance. Wanting to spoil me, my boyfriend took me to Mexico for my first all-inclusive, no children allowed resorts. My whole life, I had dreamed about a vacation like the one he took me on. I never thought I would have enough money to pay for the plane ticket, let alone also go to the resort. My dreams were coming true. We read books by the beach and enjoyed the sunshine. Neither of us had motivation for day trips or large excursions. We were the perfect travel companions. He only gave me one scare on the beach. Riptides are real, and I was not going to get in that water. My boyfriend, on the other hand, trotted in the water like a puppy. Not too far, but farther than I was comfortable with. I stood on the beach where the water could touch my feet. My boyfriend swam around in the shallow water, letting waves hit him. It only took one wave for me to be finished playing at the beach. I had decided to sit on the beach while he was playing in the water. I thought I was far enough back watching him with fear that he was too far. I vocalized my fear and told him not to go that far in the water. I was surprised when a wave hit me with such force my butt was lifted and dropped back down in the water. Having flashbacks of the tide pool and fear of the riptide, I was finished playing. After the water moved me, I stood up and announced I was done and I was going back to the hotel room. And as I walked away, the bottom of my bathing suit was extra heavy. I waddled upstairs as the sand made my bottoms hang low. And my boyfriend starts to laugh because he says it looks like I'm a baby with a poopy diaper. The one adventure we went on was scuba diving. We had watched many hours of David Attenborough's documentaries about nature and were excited to see it in person. Before going into the ocean, there was a scuba diving certification test we had to pass. Because of my asthma, both my boyfriend and I were on high alert for abnormalities. My breathing was fine, but my fear of losing my mouthpiece haunted me. I kept one hand on my mouthpiece at all times. And at all times during the dive, my boyfriend swam behind me. He was making sure he could see me in case I needed help. He was taking care of me. My boyfriend was safe alone, but as a woman, I began to think of the horrible scenarios I was in if something did happen to my boyfriend while we traveled. If he got taken in the tide, I had no idea how to get home. I didn't know where the tickets for the plane were. I didn't have access to money to pay for anything beyond $100. If he was injured, I'm not family, so I would not be allowed to help him. If I get hurt, he would be separated from me. I held that fear until we were home. I enjoyed the vacation, but I enjoyed being home with him more. During the first blizzard in our home, my boyfriend and I put on snow gear and went on a walk. During the dark and silence of the night, we went on a walk around our new neighborhood. We walked to the park across the street and looked for owls in the trees. We made the first footprints of snow together, or the first footprints together in the fresh snow. Heating an apartment is different than heating a whole house. I had grown up learning to deal with the cold. I was not allowed to touch the thermostat no matter how uncomfortable I was. In our new house, if I wanted to change the temperature, I would ask my boyfriend first. Once he noticed a pattern, I was informed I didn't have to ask anymore. It was my home too. Adjusting to the fact I didn't have to ask for things like ordering food from a restaurant or changing the thermostat without needing permission was strange. We had lived together for so long, but we still had so much to learn about being ourselves as we created our home together. We had felt at home, but I was still adjusting to learning what being at home meant. It was the anniversary of our first date. We had been living in our house for a few years. There was a fancy restaurant in town we were going to try. And after dinner, we walked around the Riverwalk. We stopped at the outdoor amphitheater area and looked towards the moon and stars. The night was brisk, so his arms were wrapped around me as he stood behind me. and with his right hand, he lifted a box holding a sparkling ring. "Will you be my wife?" he whispered into my ear. I whip around and hug him. I don't even have to say the word because we both already know. He gets the ring and slides it on my finger easily. Later, he would tell me that he was afraid I was going to smack his hand with the ring on accident and fling it into the river. We go home and I message all my friends and family a picture of my perfect engagement ring, and I can start planning my wedding. My sister and her husband, to be, lived in California, so it made sense that their wedding would be there. My boyfriend paid for my tickets and hotel room for my sister's wedding. Well, at my sister's outdoor wedding, I almost broke my ankle dancing my way away from the dance floor. No liquor was needed, and the night was young. I wasn't wearing heels, but while stepping halfway onto a pathway stone I didn't know was there, my ankle bent the wrong direction. Immediately, I could not walk. Giving me a piggyback ride in my dress, my fiance gets me to the car. I crawl up the stairs of the hotel and hobble around as my ankle turns black and blue. We used a wheelchair at the airport, which was very nice, and I tried to walk when I could, but I didn't have crutches. If walking was difficult, going to work was going to be impossible. Work did not provide me insurance because I only worked part-time. Massage therapy is an extremely physical job. As I got older, as I worked at different offices, my arms began to hurt more. My wrists began to be in pain on a regular basis. My ankle was hurt and I needed x-rays. I worked in medical offices, so I was able to pay lower rates than most patients. My fiance's sister was engaged and getting married also. She was engaged first and decided to wait 2 years planning the wedding. We were now engaged and had to wait 2 years because 2 weddings in 1 year is too much for one family. Waiting for the big party made financial sense. For financial sense, it also made sense that I needed to be covered by my fiance's insurance as soon as possible. In a ceremony very few family members and very few friends were aware of, my fiance and I went to the courthouse and got married. I refused to take pictures because I was not considering this our official marriage. I was wearing yoga pants and braids. To make me feel better about the quick ceremony, we were going on a mini honeymoon. After we got married for the first time, we drove 8 hours north in search of the northern lights. We drove until dark and found places to stay. We had booked a cabin, so we needed groceries. A friend had let us borrow a telescope to see the stars. And by this time in our relationship, staying up late was not something we did often. We tried to stay awake to see the stars, but it was wickedly cold, so we didn't last long outside. The nature was beautiful. During a hike, I took my first picture of nature that would spark my love of photography of nature. The first person that could have figured out I was married was my college best friend. My car was broken down at a grocery store near where my friend was living. My secret husband was out of town, so I called my friend for help. My friend and his dad came to help, but the car needed to be towed. Changing my name away from my father's name was the first thing I did when we got back from our mini honeymoon. I couldn't wait to sign my name with a new last name not associated with my dad. My best friend luckily didn't notice the name I had put on the paperwork. Noticing how much I love to sing to musicals, my best college friend suggested we do a double date and see Book of Mormon with the new girl he was dating. And since I had never been to prom, I took this opportunity to feel like a princess. Musicals are not the entertainment my boyfriend would choose. Because of love, he would take me to see Sound of Music, Hairspray, and Little Mermaid on stage. Having fun with technology, my boyfriend installed speakers around our house so I could listen and sing to my Broadway music no matter what room I was in. Once I had insurance, I was able to get glasses and contacts that my current prescriptions. The cost of my monthly medication went down dramatically. For the first time in my life, I had two pairs of glasses, and I was encouraged by my husband to have a backup. I was no longer living life with only the bare minimum. With our new house, I could now offer massage from home. By word of mouth, I had a few regular clients. Some weeks were busier than others, but I was able to control my schedule. Working part time allowed me to have flexible hours for my clients. My style of massage was medical massage, so clients would come to me in pain seeking relief. It was common for office patients at work to ask if I did massage at home. A few people from the chiropractic office would visit my house for services unavailable at the chiropractic office. With the cash I earned, my boyfriend said I could do anything with it. It was my play money. For the first time in my life, I had regular, disposable income. The first splurge of money was spent on hardware for the house. Gold fixtures and gold doorknobs would not do. I replaced all outlet covers and doorknobs and their hinges. Anything that was gold could be replaced. Anything that was, yeah. I had begun to make our house my home. Every year we lived in the house, the garden also got bigger. For birthdays, anniversaries, and Christmas, all I wanted was plants and gift cards to pick out more plants. The previous owners had filled areas with rocks and sand and wooden beams. It was obviously that the garden had been a hassle to them instead of a hobby. Many plants were dead and weeds were taking over. I learned how to tell the difference between a weed and a flower. I learned what flowers I liked and what I didn't want growing. It took me 2 years before I had the confidence to change anything in the garden. I made mistakes and many plants died. But for every mistake I made, I learned. Learning about the flowers and the plants sparked something inside of me. The more plants I saw growing, the happier I became. The stronger my ecosystem outside, the more hope I had for tomorrow. Being outside and caring for my garden became my second love. Knowing I was not going to be able to do large projects with children needing my attention, I completed a brick path that is the length of our house. The city was removing brick sidewalks and installing concrete sidewalks. I was allowed to take the bricks for free, and I did the math to make sure I did not break my car's suspension with taking too many bricks in the trunk at one time. Trip after trip, I brought home trunkfuls of free bricks. I sat for hours shifting rocks out of sand from the horseshoe pit. I used the pure sand to make a base for the pathway I was creating. The rocks were placed around the shed we had built. Using rocks, I blocked creatures from being able to dig around the shed. The horseshoe pit area was able to grow grass. We created a fire pit for summer late night fires. My garden biodiversity exploded. I joked that if we ever decided to leave the house, I was going to need a moving truck just for the plants I was going to bring with. I required at least 1 year's growing season so I had a chance to dig up anything I wanted to bring with. So much money had been put into the ground that bunnies became my enemy. We already cooked at home more than restaurants. We had gotten tired of restaurant food. After 2016, all the restaurant food quality went down. And as the years passed, our kitchen became our date night. We had better quality meats and unique seasonings we adjusted to our tastes. We learned the correct ratio of cheese to meat for cheeseburgers on the grill and many other recipes. My husband perfected his homemade pizza dough and naan. We experimented and cooked food together while listening to Lord Huron and Flight of the Conchords. I took my mother's old recipes and gave them our flavor twists. Together, we learned how to make food better than the restaurants. When I was growing up, cooking was stressful because if I messed up my food, I had no backup and no money to replace what I had wasted. The fear of cooking was gone when we cooked together. If our experiment failed, we always had more food in the fridge. If I wanted to eat it, he provided it. My husband took years teaching me the difference between flavor and spice. Little girls plan their weddings before they even have a groom. And I had been planning my wedding with my boyfriend for years. My dress had to be stored in the massage room's closet because I found it so quickly. I am organized, so when I get the signal to start, I already have a first few steps to complete in my mind. When he officially proposed and I started looking for wedding venues for the ceremony, we had some communication issues to work through. In his family, it's easier to agree and walk away. Communication was not a priority like it was for my mom. For my husband, he was used to avoiding giving concrete answers to avoid fights. In avoiding answering questions, I was led to believe I could continue on the planning path I was on. Unless I heard a direct no, I was going to go forward. I had the contract ready and was waiting for the deposit check. It took days for him to tell me that the venue I picked out was not going to work. He waited too long to tell me the truth. He hurt me because he waited too long to tell me his thoughts. I understood his reasoning. I just wish he had told me days or weeks earlier. I had gotten emotionally attached to my plans because he had not told me no. I was so emotional that I needed to break something. And because I am so organized, I already had wedding decorations in boxes. So I took out some of the glass pieces and put them in a sock and shattered the glass. It took a few days to heal and let go of my unrealistic bridal expectations. And being independent, I planned my bridal shower. I wanted it at my house so I could decorate. After waiting so long for a home, I was going to use it to the best of my ability. Hosting became fun. We had already hosted multiple Halloween parties. It would take me a month to decorate the main floor and the basement. My husband's mother was used to being the hosting household. My husband's mother was used to having a large influence on her daughter's life. My wedding to her son will prove to be a battle of the wills. When marrying a person, you marry their whole family. My husband's family was aware we were already married. My husband's family is religious and expected us to have a ceremony in the church. Religion had not been a source of tension previously. To make the family happy, my boyfriend and I would attend a church on Easter for his mother. I would listen and have my opinions that I kept to myself. I promised myself I would not get married in a church. Our wedding was going to be a celebration of who we are as a couple. Nothing about God or church is a part of our lives. It was a show that I didn't want to put on. After weeks of tension and fighting, I had no choice but to agree on a Catholic religious ceremony at a church. Not only did we have to do a ceremony at a church, but in order for the church to agree, we had to do a class. I refused to do the online class. I refused to get marriage counseling from a Catholic church. My husband did the work his parents wanted to give them the church wedding they wanted. Knowing my thoughts on the church, my husband tried to shield me from what he could. To avoid a church wedding, I had ordered my invitations early. Only the location of the ceremony I planned would be on the official location. I had been to enough weddings to know I wanted the ceremony and reception to be in the same location. I had no one I wanted to invite to the church ceremony. For my husband's mother, I added extra invitations to those she wanted at the religious ceremony. Long ago, I decided my father was not walking me down the aisle. For years, I thought my adopted dad would have that honor. And there was no way in hell the bald man was walking me down the aisle. I had decided that my mom and the bald man could walk down the aisle together. There was no one else I thought that deserved the honor of walking with me. It was my mother that was giving me away, not my father. I walked down the aisle by myself. I had done so much in my life by myself. It suited me. It was our wedding, and it was going to reflect who we were and are. Whether to invite my father was an internal battle I fought for years. When I first began dating, my father would not have been included. I had seen him and that side of the family inconsistently. They never stopped trying to be in my life. I kept them at a distance. I forgave them, but I had not forgotten. I was protecting myself by keeping them away from me in life. In the end, I decided that I would invite my father and his side of the family to the wedding. They were included in the wedding like a regular guest. No pictures would be taken with his side of the family. I did not want to fake any smiles standing next to him or his wife. My high school best friend could not attend the wedding. We had not seen each other in years, so I had hoped the wedding would be a big enough event for my friend to put efforts towards our friendship. I had been there for him, but he had consistently disappointed me. It would still be years before I see him again. My college best friend was in the wedding. Often my husband and I would bicker over who would get my college best friend if my husband and I got divorced. Both men had bonded over video games. When my college best friend got married, my husband was his best man. At the wedding, I met an unexpected teacher from my past. The computer teacher that allowed me to visit my kindergarten best friend was at the wedding. The teacher's daughter was close friends with the groom. In a small world, I was able to give a teacher an update on one of his former students. My maid of honor was my kindergarten best friend. We had dreamed of our wedding days for years. And not long before the wedding, our trio was completed like it had been back in elementary school. My kindergarten's best friend and her stepsister had reconnected because of a medical emergency with my kindergarten's best friend's father. Months before our wedding, I got a call from my kindergarten best friend telling me that her father was close to death. To show support, I would go sit in the waiting room with her. The evil stepmother was still married to my best friend's father, so interacting with her was inevitable. Walking into the hospital to support my best friend was also walking backwards into time. The stepsisters from the evil woman considered my best friend's father their father. Both sisters witnessed the abuse their mother did to their stepsister. Only one stepsister acknowledges the past. While sitting in the waiting room with the stepsister from kindergarten for hours, we reconnected. We missed each other and wanted to continue our friendship. The sisters had always had contact, but now I was another support line for the friendship. Our trio was together again. We had each gone and lived very separate lives, but when things went wrong, we came together to support each other. We are sisters that will never be separated again. And now that our trio was complete, I had 2 maid of honors. The chiropractic office found out I was seeing patients at my home. Other outside factors had also negatively influenced her patient retention, but she blamed me. Understanding her concerns, but unwilling to change my client list, I gave my notice. I loved my job, but I didn't want to leave. I love my job and didn't want to leave. I was willing to stay until they found a replacement. When I requested off for my wedding, I underestimated how much time I would need off after the wedding. As soon as I realized that I needed Monday off, I texted the office manager. Already upset with me, I was texted that I was no longer needed. I had not asked for the day off, but told them I was not coming in on the Monday after my wedding on Saturday night. I had worked at the office for 2 years and did not receive paid time off. I gave them 2 business days and a weekend to find a replacement for 1 day, so I thought I was being a good employee. Days before my wedding, I became unemployed. I felt free. Losing a job I had never felt so good. Adding a church ceremony before the beautiful ceremony required the makeup and hair start as early as 6 a.m. My family was staying at my husband's parents' house. My oldest sister's family consisted of her husband, her daughter, my flower girl, and her 3-month-old son. My middle sister and her husband were 8 weeks pregnant. I didn't see much of my middle sister during the wedding weekend because she felt so sick and tired. Our church ceremony was lackluster. The priest that married us was surprised that no flowers were going to be delivered. There was a shock on his voice when he realized that there was no one to walk me down the aisle. The ceremony was long and awkward. There were few people in attendance, and the wedding party was larger than the audience. The best part of the church ceremony was the moment before I walked down the aisle. It had been a few hours since I was sewn into my wedding dress, and I had to go to the bathroom. My 2 best friends came into the bathroom with me. Each sister held up a side of the dress as I peed. We laughed the whole time at how ridiculous we are. I had every moment of our wedding planned. I picked the music and wrote our vows. We were already married, so the day was just a big party. If something went wrong, like we were late, it was other people that were more stressed than me. I knew the schedule that I had printed, and I had printed out packets for all the wedding party explaining all the details, including where to stand and who they were walking down the aisle with. I communicated details with everyone as much as I could so people didn't need to come to me with their questions. My organization was something that my mother-in-law would get used to. My new family had already acclimated to how easily I cry. After being married in 3 different ceremonies, I finally got the wedding reception I had waited for. All eyes on us as we walked into the reception hall to my husband's favorite video game theme song. We danced to When You Say Nothing at All by Alison Krauss. My husband doesn't use a lot of words to tell me that he loves me, so I thought the song was appropriate. He had caught me when life was drowning. He doesn't have to speak for me to know that he loves me. I didn't care if we had a dance routine, I just wanted to dance with him. I was happy to see my friends all in one place. My guest of honor was my teacher from 5th grade. We had communicated a few times in the years since she had been my teacher. When I was her student, she married her husband. I still have her wedding invitation that it was that meaningful to me. It meant the world to me that her and her husband were at my wedding. My new in-laws gave us a large amount of money towards our wedding. In a generous act, they wanted to give us an equal amount of money that they had given their daughter. In return, there was a guest list I was expected to include. We wanted our wedding to be small, but it ended up that there were more invites on my mother-in-law's side than on the bride and groom's side. The seating table required a lot of balance because my mom would be there and so would my father's family. I had not invited any cousins except the one that had been my neighbor. I did not want a daddy-daughter dance. My husband and his mother danced after we cut our cake. The staff that set the tables up flipped 2 tables on my seating chart. The back table ended up being a group of friends that had an awesome time at the wedding. The table that was closest to the cake cutting and the first dance was my father's table. My father sat at the same table as the adopted father. They were now equivalent levels of respect to me. By the end of our wedding, all I wanted was a shower and a pillow. Sex was never an option because we had both been up since before 6 a.m. Our marriage was strong, and we had an excellent party to celebrate. We were now ready for the next step. We could admit that we were married now, so everyone always asks, when am I going to have another baby or have a baby? And another way I would interpret that question is, are you having enough sex yet? It was not a question I wanted to talk about with anyone but my husband. I was still enjoying life without children. I enjoyed my time in the garden doing tasks uninterrupted for hours while my husband was at work. I was alone a lot, but I loved it. My garden doubled in size. I painted the basement and made every inch of our house home. I finished a 9,000 piece jigsaw puzzle. Yep, this is a puzzle that was too big, framed to fit in the basement. Massage at Home was providing money I was saving up for something big. We had run out of room for framed puzzles. I was considering self publishing a book, but I had to write it first. I considered more flowers, but I just kept waiting for the perfect idea. As I spent time alone in the house, completely satisfied and content, something inside of me started to change. As I drove past elementary schools, I started to think strange thoughts. I started seeing myself standing in line, waiting for my kids to be dismissed from school. I started seeing myself in the kitchen making lunches for kids upstairs. Never in my life have I thought I could have a child and the child would be happy. Never in my life had I thought I could have such a stable and safe life. I never wanted to create another human because I hated childhood. I thought if I had a child, they would have the same childhood I did. I didn't want to have a child just to watch them suffer. But I wasn't suffering anymore. I had a life that could easily include providing for a child. I had created a safe environment for the child to thrive in. I had broke the cycle of abuse I suffered. My child would have a better childhood and life than I did because of my husband. And knowing children were in the future, my choice for a honeymoon was Hawaii. I wanted to go somewhere that I knew I'd never want to take children. I was willing to be a mother, but that didn't mean I had to take my children to Hawaii. If we didn't go to Hawaii for a honeymoon, we would not be going for at least 10 years. I knew traveling with children was going to be difficult for me. My view on children and motherhood was not something that I hid. My husband was very aware that I would not be taking care of the baby alone. I was very open with communication about expectations of parenting. I know my strength and I know my weaknesses. As a woman, expected to have a baby my whole life, I hated babysitting but I had been watching other mothers and learning for years. I had clear expectations of what motherhood meant for me. It meant pausing my life and all of my interests. I couldn't do massage halfway through the pregnancy. I couldn't drink. I couldn't use weed, and I couldn't even take my full dose of medication. My massage therapy room became the nursery, and the house decorations had to be adjusted for baby safety. To give my little boy the best chance at good health, I stopped smoking weed and drinking alcohol. I would never forgive myself if my actions while pregnant caused lifelong problems for my child. The antidepressant I was on had severe withdrawal symptoms. I was warned that when my son came out, he could possibly face withdrawal symptoms. In recent years, I had been able to reduce my antidepressant medication, but I was still on a large dose, and I worried about how my depression would affect my son. I was at 38 weeks when the doctor decided to induce my labor because my blood pressure was too high. Thinking I still had 2 weeks left of being completely uncomfortable in my own body, I was thrilled. My husband and I had taken birth classes reminding me to eat before getting admitted to the hospital, but I was too excited and forgot. I wanted that kid out of my body. While getting the IV, I almost passed out. It took hours to get the labor started. My husband was able to sleep at home because we lived so close to the hospital. I laid in bed for almost 2 days before my body decided it was ready. I was hungry and tired after laying in bed, uncomfortable for too long. All I wanted was this baby out of me. In between being told to push, I wanted to nap. I was too tired and too numb to push. The nurse kept asking if I wanted a mirror to see the baby's head as encouragement. I kept refusing because my eyes were closed trying to push. If she could see the baby's head, I wanted her to grab any hair she could and pull. When the epidural was low enough, the pain felt like a metal rod being shoved directly through my pelvis bones. With the metal rod going from hip to hip, there was a pain of a horse standing on my crotch as the bone broke to allow for my son's skull to pass. My kindergarten best friend studied anthropology, so we consider her the bones expert. Because I studied massage therapy, I am the muscles expert. I was aware that the pelvic bones broke during pregnancy, but it was a fact my best friend had avoided telling me to spare my fear. My kindergarten best friend, is my life photographer. She took our engagement photos, and it is because of her that I have pictures of my husband's first touch with our son. Our first family photo was taken moments after his birth. My two best friends got to be in the room when I delivered my son. I was so hungry that all I wanted was a sandwich. My epidural had to be turned off so I could push. I was having trouble because all I could focus on was how hungry I was. I left my husband and best friend in tears of laughter as I joked my way through the birth of pain. The best advice I ever received on parenthood came from a neighbor. I was told, "Don't lose yourself, don't lose each other." I would like to add, protect your sleep. If I don't have my sleep, I cannot function. If I cannot function, I cannot take care of a child. And when I am tired, I cry like a child. When I am hungry, I cry like a child. As I cried like a child because of the pain between my legs and the pain as the child drank milk from my breast, my husband dried my tears. My husband brought me food and fed me while I rocked our son. As I woke up with our son at night, he let me sleep in the day when I needed it most. He was my perfect teammate and took care of me. He made me happy while I cried because of motherhood. My mom came to help us as new parents. We were on high alert for signs of postpartum depression. My husband's job provided paternity leave, and without paternity leave, I do not know how I would have functioned. I felt like a bus had hit my body. I missed my medication for 3 days on top of giving birth. Feeling yourself slip into sleep is a strange feeling. It was easy to hand my child to my mother. It was easy to hand my son to his father and walk away. I knew my son was being taken care of so I could regroup. I had been used to being alone for so long. I was overwhelmed by being needed so much by my child. Being like a mother felt like I was babysitting, but the parents never came home. Being a mother didn't feel real. When my son cried, I held him. When he was hungry, I tried to feed him. I sat with my son attached to my raw nipple for hours at a time. I would switch every 20 minutes, but nothing seemed to satisfy my child. He wasn't gaining weight no matter how long he was attached to me. Using formula felt like I had been freed from a prison. I had been running errands and trying to make it home before the next feeding time. I had become a prisoner to my son's feeding schedule and hated it. Having the option to give him formula when my breasts were empty helped give me life back. I had more control of my schedule, and I no longer felt controlled by an infant. Hearing an infant crying is annoying. Hearing your child cry hurts. The first time I felt like a mother was because my heart hurt when he cried. My husband was back at work, so I was alone at the doctor's appointment with my infant son. It was his first time getting vaccinations. As I held my 3-month-old son on my lap, nurses approached on each side. I held my son as the needles entered his flesh. I felt his muscles tense as his voice cried out. I hugged him as he screamed while the nurses withdrew the needles less than seconds later. He screamed in fear and pain into my ear as I held him. He shook in my arms as he cried. As he cried, I cried, and I didn't get any shots that day, but I felt his pain. I was protecting my son with the vaccinations, and I knew what I was doing was necessary. But just because the shots were necessary doesn't mean his cries didn't hurt my heart less. The first 3 months of motherhood felt like I had been trapped in a cocoon. Time didn't matter. What day it was didn't matter to an infant. Whatever was happening in the world didn't matter as I tried to get through the day. Every day was new. Every decision was our best guess. Trial and error was how we solved a lot of questions about what to do. Having a consistent sleep schedule was not an option, it was necessity. I needed to be able to put the baby to sleep and get things done. I was not going to cuddle for hours. I enjoyed the times he fell asleep in my arms, but I did not want that to become his routine. I did not want him to depend on what I do for sleep. If I want independence, I needed to teach him how to sleep without me. I was teaching him my expectations about our routine, and we created a routine together. Asthma runs in the family, so when our son suffered his first asthma attack, I knew what was happening. Struggling for breath, he was admitted to the hospital. Being so young and unable to communicate, our son was terrified. A large mask with medicine was being pushed onto his face, and being held by his father, the nurse attempting to get the medicine into his little lungs, I tried to calm him. I started to sing and his body relaxes. The only song I could think of to sing was a song about counting fingers. By using numbers, we were able to distract my son so he could relax and start breathing normally again. Counting and watching trains became cuddle time in our house. Desperate to get my son to talk to me, we tried counting together. Anything that I noticed would motivate my son motivated me. I tried to notice the patterns of his behaviors. Patterns we didn't like, we tried to correct with positive reward. Behavior we wanted to encourage was uplifted and rewarded. His strengths were celebrated and encouraged. We used screen time to learn and encourage his curiosity. Sitting in the car, waiting for a train to stop blocking the road, my sisters and I would count train cars. When my son and I were in the car together, I would point out any trains I saw. Trains made him happy. And for entertainment and to give us a break, my son loved watching trains on YouTube. Knowing how important my sisters were to me, I knew I had to give my son a sibling. My husband was an amazing father and husband. We had more love to give. I hate pregnancy and I hated giving birth, but I didn't want my son to be alone. Because of the love I have for my husband, I agreed to create another human being in my body. And once again, I was pregnant and miserable. Only this time, I had a child clinging to me as I threw up. I had decided what to do with all my massage money I had saved. I wanted a bathtub and bathroom door that locked. I wanted 2 doors that I could lock between me and the children. When we moved in, our bathroom only had a double standing shower. If I wanted to take a bath, I used the other bathroom. Now, the other bathtub was filled with kids' toys. With a second child on the way, my husband would go to work during the day and work on our bathroom on evenings and weekends. We saved a lot of money because he was able to do a lot of the work himself or with help from his father. With the money we saved by doing the work ourselves, he purchased a new gaming computer. I got a redesigned bathroom to decorate, and he got a faster computer. Our son was so young that he didn't fully grasp what was happening while I was pregnant. While I was at 38 weeks from my second pregnancy, I was hoping for a repeat in induction circumstances. Her foot had been in my ribs for weeks, and I hated every aspect of being pregnant and having another creature inside of me. I wanted control of my body back. When the doctor said I was fine and to come back next week, I cried the whole way home. The disappointment broke me. My son had never seen me cry that hard. I did everything I could think of to induce labor. I tried massage techniques and pressure points to start my labor, but nothing. I was desperate to get the baby out of me. When I finally got the news she was coming out, I remembered to eat this time. Only one best friend was in town for the birth, and it is because of my kindergarten best friend that I have a matching picture of my husband meeting my daughter for the first time. It is because of my best friend that we have matching poses in our first pictures with our daughter. The second birth was half the amount of time and pain as the first birth. My body knew what to do, and I had learned a lot and was more prepared. My husband's parents had been able to stay the night at our house, so our son's routine wasn't disrupted. We did not have our son visit in the hospital because I could not emotionally handle if there was a problem saying goodbye. My son was very attached to me. My husband and I agreed and knew that our little boy would not agree willingly to leave my side once he knew where I was. When we returned from the hospital with a new baby sister, her brother barely noticed. It was impossible to get pictures of him near her. He had no interest in her. Our cats dealt with the infants. Our cats were not cuddly, but they were social with adults. When my nieces and nephews came to visit, our cats would disappear. Once a baby came into the picture, cats had to take a back seat to our attention. We gave them the attention we could, but our cats had some adjusting to do. With two little kids, every day is different. Once a routine is established, there's a growth spurt. Every growth spurt has its own challenges and emotional roller coasters. And I longed for the day when my child could use words to communicate with me. I longed for the days that I knew what my day would look like and not be dictated by a child's needs. I missed my routine and I missed my intellectual freedom. My mom came to meet her new granddaughter, and while Grandma was visiting, the world was shutting down. A worldwide pandemic was beginning to rage through the country. Thank you. There's my arrow.